Hey everyone, it's Alexander the Real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and it's that time of the year again, that time of the year where Discovery Channel just airs nothing but shark specials. It is Shark Week, and I don't think I've actually ever done any videos to tie into Shark Week. I did review the Jaws sequels one summer, but I don't remember if that was around Shark Week or not. But whatever the case, I figured to actually do a series of videos that actually does tie into Shark Week. So without further ado, let's just hop into the first video right here. And if you couldn't tell by the title and the thumbnail, the first video I'll be doing is a review for Deep Blue Sea, which came out in 1999, as directed by Renny Harlin, who's known for Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, and a whole crop of other mediocre to schlocky movies. And Deep Blue Sea might actually be his most famous one. The plot revolves around a group of scientists that are experimenting on sharks to try to get a cure for Alzheimer's. The lead scientist, played by Saffron Burrows, has genetically mutated these sharks in order to get more of their brain tissue for the cure. But unfortunately, as a side effect for messing with these sharks, they got smarter, so the sharks end up breaking out of this complex and trying to escape into the open ocean as our main characters try to survive this facility and not get killed by a shark. Or 3 sharks in this case. So Deep Blue Sea is one of those movies that I saw posters of throughout. Like, this was a big deal when it came out in 1999, but I didn't see this movie until many years later. And I was just so fascinated by the poster, just all the images. And I even saw a bit of a behind-the-scenes documentary on the film long before I even saw the movie. And I've seen this movie in chunks throughout, and what I saw just was kind of okay. But as the years went by, I actually had no idea that this movie was as beloved as it is, in terms of being a schlocky genre film, because I don't think anybody would say this is a masterpiece or anything, but I was surprised that this movie has maintained its popularity since 1999. So I decided to watch it again, and in prep for this review, this actually may have been my first time seeing the movie from beginning to end, but since I saw the movie in chunks, I pretty much got an idea of what it was. And it's not really a good movie, but it's not really that terrible of a movie either. It's that kind of genre film that really knows what it is. It's not trying to compete with Jaws at all, even though there are many elements in this movie that remind you of Jaws. But for what it's trying to do, it actually kind of succeeds. It knows it's kind of schlocky, it knows the plot itself is pretty ridiculous. Although 12 years after this movie came out, this type of plot was done better with apes, so can't really say that this plot is dumb since they made it work with apes. But regardless, it knows it's a shark movie, and one of the things that this movie does throughout, unlike Jaws, is show the sharks as much as they can. And in this movie, the sharks are mako sharks and not great whites, even though there are points in this movie where the sharks really do look like great whites and not actually makos. And these sharks are brought to life through a combination of animatronics and CGI, which the animatronic sharks are incredible. Like, they look great, the movement is so lifelike, they've been programmed to actually swim on their own in the water, so all the animatronic and practical work on these sharks is incredible. And the one scene that really sticks out to me in terms of how great these animatronics are is when they harvest the bigger shark's brain tissue, and when it basically bites off Stellan Skarsgård's arm. And if that stunt had gone wrong, where the shark bites off Stellan Skarsgård's arm, he could have been seriously injured. And the shots with Thomas Jane in the tank with the shark are incredibly impressive. I mean, there are many scenes in this movie where Thomas Jane is with these mechanical sharks, and you get a sense of how lifelike they can be. That being said, it's a damn shame that the sharks look terrible in CGI. I mean, it's 1999, so unless you're Titanic or the Jurassic Park films, CGI had not gotten to the point where it is now. But the problem with the CGI in this movie is that the sharks look like cartoon characters. Like, you almost expect one of them to be voiced by Jack Black or Robert De Niro at one point. And they also look nothing like the animatronic sharks. That's what I mean when I said that sometimes the sharks look like great whites. While the animatronic sharks don't look 100% authentic to what Makos actually look like, and there's a tiger shark in this movie that looks nothing like what tiger sharks look in real life. They just took one of the Mako animatronics and gave it a different skin color. But the CGI sharks, again, look totally different from their animatronic counterparts and look like a completely different species. So that can be incredibly jarring. And since the animatronic sharks are able to swim on their own, you wonder, why use CGI in the first place? But as the movie goes on, you realize that there are a lot of stunts that require CGI sharks, and a lot of moments where the sharks are so incredibly ruthless to these humans that you can't do it through animatronics. Now, speaking of the humans, it's got a pretty impressive cast. I mentioned you had Thomas Jane and Stellan Skarsgård in this movie, but you also have Samuel Jackson, you have LL Cool J, you have Saffron Burrows. Like, you got these noticeable actors in this movie, which makes you wonder why they even agreed to sign on to this, because Deep Blue Sea, if it were made today, it would be an asylum film. Like, it would be that movie where they got no-name actors with crappy special effects. Because this movie really does feel like the precursor to all those horrible shark movies that we would get in the future. But regardless, the cast is impressive, and most of the actors actually do a really good job. Your lead actor in the movie is Thomas Jane as a shark wrangler who... Oh, I'm sorry, that's Aaron Eckhart. That's Thomas Jane, there you go. God, they look so alike. But anyway, Thomas Jane is interesting as a lead character because he is probably the second most charismatic person in this movie. He's built to be the strong-jawed hero who really knows what's going on and tries to get everyone out of danger. But funny enough, he actually doesn't kill any of the sharks. No, 2 of the sharks are killed by LL Cool J, and 1 of them's killed by Saffron Burrows. So Thomas Jane, all he does in this movie is just survive to the end of the film. And that's something that you don't really see in terms of a leading man. You'd expect him to have killed all the sharks, but no, he kills none of them. And that's interesting. Now, in terms of LL Cool J, he is the coolest character in the movie, not just because cool is in his name, but he's got charisma. He has some of the best moments in the film. The moment that really sticks out to me is when the first shark is killed. He's trapped in his kitchen that's being flooded and the shark's attacking him. And somehow the shark turns on an oven, which allows gas to kind of spread all over the room. LL Cool J manages to escape, grabs a lighter, and before he tries to get out of the room, he looks at the shark and goes, "You ate my bird." Then he just tosses that lighter into the room, igniting it, blowing up the shark, and somehow he manages to dodge a slow-motion explosion. It was the 90s, so you gotta give him that. But even then, that moment doesn't even compare to the one moment in this movie that everyone talks about, and probably the moment that is the reason Deep Blue Sea is still talked about to this day. Samuel Jackson's death. Samuel Jackson in this movie is good. I mean, Samuel Jackson is always charismatic, but he has a moment in this movie where all the characters are arguing, and he just stops to give this inspirational speech and says something about how ice is faster than water, which I don't think that's actually true, but I'm not an expert. But anyway, he's giving an inspirational speech to the characters as he's standing next to a large body of water after Aaron Eckhart, god damn it, Thomas Jane, tells him not to stand there. Even if you haven't seen this movie, you know the moment. So we're not going to fight anymore. We're going to pull together, and we're going to find a way to get out of here. First, we're going to seal off this chomp. And the shark drags Samuel Jackson into the water and gets torn in half by another shark. So that's a great moment because with a character like Samuel Jackson, you think he's gonna make it to the end of the film because it's Samuel Jackson. At this point, he is very well established. But once Samuel Jackson is ambushed by a shark and taken out, you know that nobody is safe at this moment. Anyone's fair game. And then we have Saffron Burrows as the main scientist, and man, if there was ever a character responsible for everything that happened, it would be her. There's a lot to talk about with her character, both from an in-film perspective and a production perspective, because she conducts these experiments to try to get rid of Alzheimer's because sharks don't get cancer, which in recent years has been proven to be untrue. Sharks actually do get cancer. But this was 1999. We didn't know that at the time. She pretty much is a mad scientist, meddles with these sharks, and she is actually the sole reason why people keep dying in this movie. And I'm not going to say she's unlikable in the movie, but she definitely is problematic. And the craziest thing is that originally she was supposed to be the hero. When you watch the credits of the movie, you'll notice that Saffron Burrows' name comes before Thomas Jane. The original ending of this movie is one of the things of legend, because the original ending was that Saffron Burrows was going to make it to the end of the film. She survived, but that didn't sit well for test audiences, because when they saw the movie, they hated her character. Like, they absolutely hated Saffron Burrows. So they reshot the ending and kind of reworked the rest of the movie to make Thomas Jane the main character, and Saffron Burrows is killed doing something incredibly stupid. And next to Samuel Jackson, she probably... actually, I don't know. I want to say she gets the most brutal death in the film, but Michael Rapaport gets killed in the movie. And when he gets torn in half, when we see his legs just floating in the water, they're twitching, and you just go, ooh. But Saffron Burrows gets a really brutal death, and she kind of had it coming. I mean, most of the characters that actually get eaten or killed by the sharks do really stupid things and kind of have it coming, whether they're unlikable or just not all that interesting. And the movie is smart enough to make the two coolest characters in the movie survive. Because another thing that was originally supposed to happen before test audiences had a say was that LL Cool J was supposed to be killed. But test audiences really liked his character, so they ended up saving LL Cool J and killing Saffron Burrows. Which makes it the second time audiences saved a black character in a shark movie. For those of you that don't know this story, and I don't know if I mentioned this in my review for Jaws the Revenge, but the original ending that was shown in theaters is the ending where the shark is stabbed by the boat and sinks to the bottom of the ocean, with Mario Van Peebles' character, Jake, being dead. But audiences hated it, so Universal actually reshot the ending after the film was released, mainly for European distribution. And the ending that you see on home video was the ending where Mario Van Peebles' character survives, but at the cost of seeing the shark blow up in Play-Doh form. So in the case of Jaws the Revenge, audiences' reaction to a terrible ending made the ending even worse, whereas the reaction to Deep Blue Sea's original ending ended up saving the movie. Because you have to wonder, if the movie had ended with LL Cool J being killed and Saffron Burrows living, would we even talk about this movie today? Would this be ranked up there with one of the more memorable shark movies? It's interesting to think about that. On a whole, Deep Blue Sea is actually quite a bit of fun. I know I've been kind of dancing around this review, but there's a lot that I like about this movie. Like I mentioned, the animatronic sharks. A lot of the actors are good and they have charisma. But there are also a handful of terrible moments as well. Like I mentioned, the CGI is pretty bad. There are several moments where the movie reminds us of Jaws. For example, the tiger shark has a Louisiana license plate in its mouth, very similar to the tiger shark in the first Jaws. A what? I couldn't help myself. Jacqueline McKenzie, who plays one of the other scientists in the movie, is actually pretty terrible. Like, she has some incredibly flat line delivery, and she's just not a very good actress. Like, she sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the rest of the cast. And there's also a handful of stupid moments throughout. Some of the stupid moments actually work to the film's advantage, while some others really just don't. But overall, this movie's fun. Technically, I can't say it's a good movie, but it's definitely a fun movie, and it's definitely competently made. So I'm going to say watch at your own risk, but in the most positive way that I can. If you go into this movie knowing that it's probably going to be schlocky and nowhere near the levels of Jaws, then you might have a good time. But if you look at this and go, this looks incredibly stupid, then this isn't the movie for you. If you want a movie where scientists experiment on animals to try to cure Alzheimer's, and as a result the animals got smarter, just watch Rise of the Planet of the Apes. That's a much better movie, but again, Deep Blue Sea, for what it is a lot of fun. Much like Independence Day, this is one of those big, high-profile blockbusters that's not really a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely defined the 90s. And there you go, that's my review for Deep Blue Sea. Now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the Real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one